A year ago, I was afraid to be still. I think a part of me thought that she would die if I stopped moving. I would feel guilty every time I got sick and I needed to take time off. I couldn't rest without feeling guilt. I GPT'd how to relax. I looked it up and then I was like, how do I optimize rest? I was like, how can I rest the best? I wasn't remotely asking myself how to make myself happy. And now,
This is the phase for ambitious and high achieving people who have created success on the outside, but they know that there is something deeper that they are longing for. Yes, peace of mind, more presence, more fulfillment, and to be honest, a greater sense of purpose. So, I'm Ariana. I'm an empowerment coach, and I'm here with Catherine, an entrepreneur who has spent the past few years defining what success truly means. Because we are always talking about success, but what does success truly means for you? That's the biggest question. So together we are exploring what it looks like to create a life that is not only successful in the outside, but is deeply aligned, right? Because that is the feeling that you want to experience. We're going to be sharing with you real experiences, insights, challenges, breakthroughs, and we're going to start to point for our conversation and have different insight that maybe could be helpful for yours. Maybe you can see yourself reflected in these experiences. We're going to be talking about topics like identity, self-worth, perfectionism, trust, right? Rest without feeling guilty, which is something that sometimes is so difficult to do. Relationships, purpose, and what it truly means to thrive without constantly chasing the next achievement. Because we are always trying, we're always trying to be in the future, but we forget the most important that is to be present. So we're gonna try to help you to come back into this present moment. That's why it is called present. It's a gift, right? And we need to enjoy this gift of life. So this isn't a podcast about having all the answers. This is just about asking better questions and staying curious, and most of all, growing together. We are a community. This is exactly what we are trying to create here, a community where we can talk about all those things, and sometimes you don't know with whom you can have these deep conversations. And we're gonna create this vibe in our living room to invite you to this virtual living room conversation with us so we can talk about all the things. And if you ever thought that success alone wasn't enough, okay, you are in the right place. Believe me, we are so glad that you are here. This is not just a coincidence, this is a synchronicity. So let's begin.
so when I was about, let's say, 12, my mom, after I came home from school, she saw my grade for something and she made a comment that she thought would help me. She said, your sister is a lot more natural at getting good grades, and you might need to just work a little bit harder to get those same grades. And I know now that she meant it constructively, but my young brain perceived that whole conversation as, I'm not good enough as I am. I need to work extra harder to keep up with people. And I felt this burning desire to impress my mom. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to work really hard. And it's going to feel almost like a surprise that I do so well. And then I just spent the next 20 years trying to be impressive. And it
Wow.
worked. I got into Princeton after studying really hard in high school. I got the best job that I could get after college, which was to work at Facebook as a product manager. I was told that it wasn't the right role for me. And then I knuckled down and I worked really hard, and I got there at the beginning of the day and I left at the end of the day, and I was promoted 3 times in 3.5 years while I worked there. I left to start a company, and some of my people that I worked with there were our first angel checks. I convinced a friend from college to work with me. We we raised $7.5 million in venture funding, and I worked on that for 6.5 years. And I lost connection with myself while I was working on that company. I lost myself in a long-term relationship that I had. I also lost myself in the business. And I share this because there are so many people with stories like mine. And I was able to, with your help and just being on this journey inward over the last 3 years, and then over the last year has been tremendous change in how I experience my reality of just so much wholeness and so much presence and so much like love for myself, and knowing that I actually never needed that achievement to like mean something about myself.
I'm feeling goosebumps. I'm sorry. So powerful. Sorry, sorry for interrupting, but it was really emotional.
I fucking love you. Oh. And I'm so passionate about doing this podcast with you because I know that I'm meant to help other people. And if I can help someone who's in that hustle, in that grind, feel less alone and to feel seen. And especially if they're working and working and working, they're like, I'm just not happy. Like, I'm not connected to what feels joyful and light and fun. And so, I'm getting emotional. So, I'm so excited to talk about this because I don't have all the answers. I don't have it figured out. And I feel like sharing this in real time feels like way more meaningful than like waiting until I like have it all figured out. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I can share it from like my mountaintop. Like, like I think sharing it
Exactly.
as we go
I
is
love it,
really like,
Catherine, because one of the most important thing and the value that I find in this podcast together is that, as you mentioned before, we don't have to wait to be perfect. Perfect for whom, right? I mean, the most beautiful thing about this life is that we are not perfect, because that's the most interesting part of life. I mean, we are eternal learners. This is something that
mm,
when I became aware of that, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to be learning till the last day. And that's the magic of life, because if we already know everything, it will be boring, right? And I truly value that you break this, self sabotage story that was telling you that you should wait for being perfect. And it's a little bit of what we are trying to show to this audience that are going to start to follow us. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. Take the moment and make it perfect, like this. Show people that by being authentic, you can connect even more. And this podcast is all about that, being authentic, share your own journey, bring, insight that probably in your daily life could be like literally helpful for other people. And the fact that you are being brave enough to, stop with this limiting belief, it's allowing people out there to see that it is possible to create something when you move yourself from your ego, when you just literally put yourself out there, not to wait for validation and wait for people to say, oh my gosh, this is the best podcast. No, we are doing this because we truly want to help anyone who is sitting out there watching this podcast and feeling related with these kind of stories. And most of all, and I feel like that is the most precious gold nugget of your story, is that, girl, you made it. You be really successful, in your in your job, with all the accomplishments that you already achieved. But even though you say something really, really important, that now you feel happy. Now you become aware of how important it is to be present, how important it is to be authentic. And the most important thing is now you are becoming connected with your own meaning for what does success truly means for you, not for your mom, not for your family, not for society, for you, which is something really personal. So thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here today sharing this. And I want to jump into the next question so people can connect even more with you, okay? So as I mentioned before, from the outside, we can say that your life looked really successful, right? People were like, oh my gosh, you made it, you accomplished a great job, you accomplished a good amount of money. But what was happening, internally, that people, they couldn't see?
Have you ever seen Inside Out? That just
Oh
came to
yes,
me.
I love,
Inside
it's one
Out,
of my
like the
favorite movies.
little yes, like the little girl, the anxiety that's like whirring around the command center of her brain. Like, "Oh, we need to do this." Like that was what was happening under the hood. Like genuinely at all times, I was like, "What am I missing? I need to be hyper vigilant. I'm missing something. On to the next." I always had this idea in my head that like once I reach the next milestone, I'd be so peaceful. I'd be happy forever. Like I remember I like really wanted to get Forbes 30 under 30. Like I really wanted it. I was like 29. I was like right at the cutoff. And there was just I remember praying to like God, the universe, like closing my eyes before I went to sleep. I was like, if I just make Forbes 30 under 30, I'll be happy forever. I promise. And I'll do whatever you want me to do. Like I actually like said that. I got it. And I was so happy for a day. And then I forgot about it. The very next day, I was like, okay, what are the next things next? Like it happened so fast. And then I told myself, I was like, okay, once we raise our seed round, which was going to be $3 million, once we raise this round, we have so much runway. We have years that we can work and we can help people. And I'm going to be so happy. Like it's all going to be good. Like if only I can just get there. And like my partner at the time too, like knew that I was working really hard. And I was like, if I'm going to be so much more present. Like once I get there, I got there, on to the next. Didn't even like spend time celebrating, honestly. And with hindsight now, I mean, I can kind of joke about this, but like I've fully needed to like grieve and cry for all the years that I spent not present for my own life. Like genuinely always on to the next, always anxiously trying to control and predict the future and just manage circumstances and push. And it wasn't all bad. Don't get me wrong. Like I love having a goal and I love achieving, and being busy is great. It's not all like, bad. But I think if it comes at the cost of what it did for me, of I always didn't feel enough yet. I was like, okay, once we close that very next round, like raise even more. Once we have, this many customers, once we have X amount in revenue, and then toward the end, after the 6 years, I was like, if we sell this company, I'll be happy. And my partner at the time was like, I think you might be addicted to work. And I was like, what? He's like, I think you're addicted to the highs and lows of being a startup founder. And it really had me like looking inward, because when I would get that next milestone, when I would achieve that goal, like I would get this dopamine rush. And then even when I was stressed out on the way to get there, my blood, like my body was just filled with cortisol, like the stress hormone. And that gave me a rush. And the more that I'm learning now about how the mind and body works, like this makes so much sense. Like we think about something, we get stressed, and it turns on this like stress hormone, which is an arousal. And we can get addicted to a life we don't even like, which is literally what happened to me. Like from the outside looking in, like I had all these things going for me, but in reality, I put work above my relationships. I put work above my relationship with myself, meeting my own needs, even asking myself what my needs even were. I constantly was chasing that next milestone, thinking that it would fill me up with fulfillment and joy and purpose and happiness would be this like lasting state, only to then hit it and then realize that that was like an illusion, and then reach for the next milestone. So I was just doing this nonstop. And yeah, did that answer your question?
Oh my God, I love it because you are literally the perfect example when I'm saying like people think like, oh, material success is the main goal. And as you mentioned before, when we are trying to, I love trolls. We are talking about, like cartoons, movies. My favorite one is Trolls. And I'm going to tell you why. Because since I was a little kid, I love Trolls. But when I watched the movie, I was like, I don't know, 37 probably. So I was like grown enough to understand the deepest of the messages, the message that this movie brings to us, that is happiness is within yourself. It's not out there. Because if you're always chasing happiness on something that is outside from you, as Catherine just shared, it is never enough. You always gonna move the goal a little bit forward, a little bit forward, a little bit forward. And then you become addicted to that rush of cortisol in your body. And what it is familiar doesn't mean that it's good for you. It's just familiar. So becoming aware of our subconscious program allows us to become aware of the patterns that are not aligned with the dream life that we want to accomplish. And that's exactly what you've been sharing along this, piece of nugget of your own process, because you become aware of, okay, if I always moving forward my goal, and every time that I reach my goal, I don't feel, that it's enough and I want something else. And then suddenly someone comes and said, maybe I think that you are addicted to work. All those things were like trying to help you to become aware of patterns that, beside the fact that they were familiar, they weren't aligned with the dream life that you probably wanted, right?
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me of what like something that clicked for me when I had that turning point. Like
Okay,
that what
love
you
it.
just oh,
This is gonna
oh
happen
my
in
god.
real time, like you can talk.
Oh my gosh, like I kept thinking that pushing forward even when my heart was no longer in it was the right thing to do. I was like, this is what the person that I'm meant to be is supposed to do. I was like, oh, you keep reinvigorating, you're not motivated. Go back to the drawing board and like 50 first dates. I kid you not, like Drew Barrymore, every morning I was like, okay, I'm doing this because it's connected to my mission and purpose. And I just like reinvigorated. I was like, I'm doing this for my co-founder, for our customers, for our investors, for our teammates. Like I was forcing it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So
And force doesn't mean power. This is one of the biggest insights, right? Forcing
yeah,
doesn't mean power. Sometimes when we are forcing something, it's like when we said, what you resist, persist, right? You were resisting about connecting with yourself. And this is something that we actually, I think that is one of the biggest mistakes nowadays, that we are connecting so much with the outside world that we forget to connect with our inside world and ask ourselves,
so
what do you
true.
truly want? I mean, how do you truly want to feel? And that's the moment that, you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm really glad that you're sharing all this experience. Please, everybody, comment in, like make your comments down there, like share a little bit of your life if you feel that something of this resonate with you, because if most of us, we can recognize ourselves in some of these patterns, right?
I love that. Please do. Please do. Yes. Share
I'll
away.
go into our next question. Um, was there a moment when you realize, like, I don't want to keep living this way, right? Can you remember that day? There was a specific moment, something that happened, a conversation. I don't know. How was that moment? Do you remember?
Yes. I
Right.
remember I
I'm
remember it
ready.
was Monday, June 9th last year.
That was
Just a
precise. I
random
wasn't expecting
Monday,
that.
random Monday. And and I will say that there were signs leading up to it. Hearing what you said too about anything if we attach our worth or our happiness to something outside of ourselves, it's not sustainable. It's not lasting. And I noticed in myself that I wasn't sustainable. The way that I was approaching work and my life was not sustainable. I knew in my bones that I was craving, honestly, rest. I was really burnt out at this point. And I like my co-founder at the time and I already knew that we were ready to sell our company and we were talking to companies to acquire us. And so this Monday, June 9th, I woke up and I wrote down my priorities for the week. I was like, okay, I'm going to pull together some due diligence for this company that's interested in acquiring us, and I'm going to do XYZ. So I was in the morning, and at 1 p.m., I sat myself down at my computer to do it. And my body refused to do it. My body was like, nope, nope. And I just like it's like a task that it was an easy task. Like, yeah, I needed to like think about it and put together our story, put together materials or whatever. It was doable, but there was something in me that just it changed. It shifted. Like I refused. I couldn't do it. And so I texted my business partner and I said, I'm going to rest the rest of today and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And thankfully he was like, sure, talk to you tomorrow. And at 1-ish p.m. on this Monday, I turn on an episode of Survivor and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna rest. So I love Survivor. And I was like, let me just relax. So I sat on the couch and I started watching, and within 5 minutes, I felt this knowing come over me. You're gonna leave your company. And like it felt so profound and terrifying, and like I was kind of shaky almost, and I like grabbed a piece of paper and I wrote down, I was like, I've decided to leave for sure. I love myself, I love my co-founder, I love my teammates and all of the people that rely on us, and and both can be true. Like I can love myself and do what I need to do and love all these people. And i I didn't want to tell anyone because I was like, this is such a big deal. Like, I need to, I need to sleep on it. And when I woke up the next day, or actually I texted my business partner saying, I want to talk to you tomorrow. And I told him. And when I told him the next day, he was like, hey, we've known each other since freshman year of college. We've known each other for over a decade, well over a decade at this point. And we've been working on this for 6 years. Like I wanted to finish this together. But he like understood. He knew how burnt out I was and I was crying and crying. He just knew. He knew that this was what was right. And he's like, give me some time to process. And within a few hours, I went to the hospital because I had searing pain in my abdomen, like 9 out of 10 pain for 15 hours straight. And I had to stay overnight. And this, I'm realizing that what my body was telling me was it was tightly holding on to something and it finally let go. And it was really scary. Like it was a huge turning point for me because I knew that I couldn't come back. I couldn't go back to the way that things were. The way that things were was not sustainable. And I knew that I needed to listen to my heart. And I was just so afraid that my investors would be like, wow, like, you're really not going to see this through? What's wrong with you? My teammates were going to be like, what's wrong with you? My co founder would be so disappointed. I was so afraid that I'd be disappointing all these people. And what the universe showed me in the following few days just like blew me away. A few days later, after my co founder had sought counsel from a lot of other founder friends and just people close to him, he got on the phone with me and he's like, thank you so much for believing in me and having enough faith in me and trusting me to take us over the finish line. Like we're almost there. I can feel it, and I'm gonna do you proud. I've been watching you lead, and I know that I'm gonna do a good job. And it means the world that you trust me, you believe in me, you have faith, and let's do this. Let's go. And he was so invigorated. My team totally understood. My investors understood, or for the most part, most of them did. And I just went on my way and I started like really just moment to moment choosing what I wanted to do at any given moment. Like if I wanted to cry, I would cry. If I wanted to eat whatever, I'd go eat whatever. If I wanted to go spend time with my parents, I flew and I went to go do that. Um, I started to learn to rest without guilt. You've helped me a lot since October. And I, yeah, I like really just started listening to my heart. And that was the biggest turning point. Oh, and then a few months later, like about 2.5 months later, we signed the documents to close on selling our company. Uh, and yeah, the universe works out when we follow our heart. And what
Yeah,
we think is the
especially when
worst case
we
scenario doesn't happen.
exactly, and especially because when you choose a new identity, that knowing, that knowing that you felt was your new identity coming into this reality. And I always joke around this, meaning of life, that life is a game. So I love to like tell myself, okay, if this is a game and I am consciousness, and this is my avatar, this is, the person that is playing this game. So I need to always have, in my mind very present that I am the consciousness managing this avatar. But this avatar identity, I can change it all the time. And of course, as you share, and I feel like this is the most important. The moment you knew that you were making this shift in your reality, that you were a new person, that you were like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And as you said, you started to allow yourself to make so many other things that before you didn't allow at all, because you were always thinking about what other people will think if you do XYZ. The moment you made that shift, you felt really uncomfortable. You felt it was too much because, of course, it was a new identity. And your old identity was trying to push all the buttons, with all the fears, with all the limiting beliefs, because she didn't want it to leave you. She wanted to stay, but you were strong enough to work every single day with every decision, through every challenge, to reinforce this new identity that is the one that we are sharing today, because we want you to feel that you can do the same, right? And another important thing that I want to, like to highlight from what you have shared is that you see how much we sometimes suffer because of what we think. And sometimes what we think, it doesn't even happen. You were suffering because, oh, what my coworkers would say, what this person would think about me, what would happen. And then everybody was like, girl, congratulations. I'm proud of you. So it's amazing because this is something that we all deal with. We sometimes suffer too much because we are imagining scenarios that doesn't even exist farther from our minds. And
So
once
true.
you are capable of stop that chit chat, and instead of placing your energy, because remember, where energy goes, energy flows, where attention goes, energy flows. So if you put your attention on the scenarios that you don't want, that's where you are placing all your energy. But the moment you remove that attention for what you don't want, you start to place that attention on the things that you want. You wanted a different style life. You wanted to connect more with yourself. You wanted to travel and visit your family. You wanted to do the proper inner work that truly helps you to connect with what true success means for you. Why? Because you started to work in the most important relationship that you have, that is with yourself. You started to be honest with yourself. What do you want it? Well, how you want it to feel, right? And that
Yeah.
authenticity leads you to connect with what true success means for you, right? So it's amazing. It's so
Yes.
empowering. Thank you for sharing that, Catherine. So
My pleasure.
I wanna I wanna make another question that I feel like the audience will enjoy a lot, and it's that what's the difference about the woman that is here sitting with us today from the woman that was sitting, like, let's say, a year ago?
Wow. A year ago, I was afraid to be still. I was afraid of stopping the keep going on to the next thing. I was afraid of, yeah. I think a part of me thought that she would die if I stopped moving. And I would feel guilty every time I got sick and I needed to take time off. I couldn't rest without feeling guilt. I GPT'd how to relax a year ago. I kid you not. I looked it up and then I was like, how do I optimize rest? I was like, how can I like rest the best? um, I I wasn't remotely asking myself how to make myself happy. Uh, and now I wake up every day and I go to the bathroom mirror and I say, I love you. What can I do today to make you happy? I ask a few times and then I do whatever I hear.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's the very first time you are listening to yourself. I
Yeah.
think that
I'm
is one
listening.
of the
Yeah.
biggest challenges, right? We are listening
Yes.
to other people. What does mean success for other people? What does mean to be happy for other people? What does mean this, that? And, sometimes it sounds like cheesy or cliche, but literally all the answers are within you. Literally. Listen more to yourself, create a space of presence, create space to meditate. Most of the people out there think that sometimes meditation is like a Google thing. I'm telling you, the more you delay your connection with meditation, the longer it will take for you to manifest the dream life that you want from a conscious place. You can bend reality, you can bend time the moment you connect with yourself, because the more clear image that you have about where are you going, how you want to feel, and what does true success means for you, that's the moment that everything comes to you so easy. It's like a clear sign that you are sending to the universe through your emotions, not only through affirmation, because sometimes we are like, saying, oh, I love you, I'm this, I'm that. But when you look at you in the mirror and you're like, I love you, girl, I'm proud of you, it sounds different because you are like feeling it. It's not like, I love you, girl. Now you feel it. Try it.
You
Try
believe
it.
it, you
Try
know
it,
it.
and write down in the comments how you felt when you truly look into your, like your eyes, and you can tell that you are talking to yourself because your pupils, it says in English, pupil, correct me because I don't say
Pupils. Yeah, you got it.
exactly. They get bigger because they can tell that you are loving yourself. Practice, and
Mm.
you will tell me after. It's so empowering.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. I really love what you said about how important it is to look within and to meditate. And I am reminded that there's this story of this beggar that's sitting on what ends up being this treasure chest filled with abundance and wealth and gold, but he doesn't know it. And he's sitting on it. And he kind of takes it for granted. He's like, oh, this is just mine from before, asking always outside for more things. And he keeps getting these messages like, oh, why don't you check what's in the He's like, there's nothing in here. And that just reminds me, like, there's so many times where we just take for granted the gold that is in our minds and bodies. And all we need to do is just spend a little bit of time getting present and relaxing and looking within. And it doesn't even need to be a meditation. It can be a workout, or it could be travel, or it could be spending time with loved ones, like anything that gets us kind of taking away from the ego mind and the character that we're playing and just the mind stories, and just slows everything down and helps reconnect us with our inner voice and our joys and our passions. Anyway, so I love that you said that. And something else that I wanted to add about who the woman is today now versus before is just so much self acceptance and so much wholeness and not needing to prove anything to anyone. And believing that the things that I know really well. I don't need to ask for permission to see myself as an authority on the things that I know. And for so long, I didn't see myself that way. And now I really do. Like, I am my future self today. I am her. There's no separation. I've lived what's going to come in the future because I just know what's coming. And I'm cherishing and appreciating every single moment that I have right now, because the present moment is such a gift, and getting
It
to
is a
ever
gift.
deeper levels. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
like
definitely.
connection
And I
with
love to hear
myself.
that.
And yeah,
I love to hear that because actually you said something that is really important that I always said, first of all, like, yeah, meditation, it's not just being sitting. You can like literally meditate when you go for a run or a shower, or it's just a moment where you are like completely disconnected from the outside world. And because of that, all that energy that most of the time you are investing on performing a character that looks great for the outside world, the moment you you stop to performing and you truly connect with yourself, that's the moment that you can create a life that is in alignment with what you truly want. Okay. So every time that you feel overwhelmed, that you feel anxiety, that you feel depression, that you are like comparing yourself with anybody else out there, make a pause, breathe, and have a moment to connect with yourself. Go do whatever the most you enjoy. The most, whatever you enjoy the most, and
yes.
just you will see how that creativity gets into this moment, into this zone of inspiration. Actually, there is another very beautiful movie, also a cartoon movie that is called Soul. I truly highly recommend to watch it. It's very helpful for you to get it with your life purpose. So just to go toward the end of this podcast, I would love to know something that probably many people out there is wondering, and it's why continue sharing your journey if you already feel so transformed.
The journey isn't about fixing myself. It's about continually becoming more fully myself. And I think that journey never ends. Like, I think every new chapter of my life brings me new opportunities for growth. And there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be times where I fall from grace and I forget that I am connected to nature. I forget how much I deeply love myself and everyone around me, how much I love my life and the opportunities to learn and to grow and to become a better version of myself and a truer, more authentic version of myself. And so I hope that people don't think that they need to be finished in order to have something worth sharing.
Exactly. That's a story that we are telling ourselves. And the moment we start to tell ourselves this story that, oh, I need more time, or I need to like look for the next, program or the next book of the next coach, we are actually in the subconscious mind creating this gap in between the person that already have it all and you. So remember, you can change your reality, not with reality, with your identity. So become aware of the story that you are telling yourself 24/7, because that story, the one that you are convincing your brain of, is a story that you will see in your reality, or better say, you will experience in your reality. Your brain is rewired to prove that you are right in whatever you truly believe that is what you have to live. So I always said that is the power of mind. The power of mind is that she will always prove you that you are right. If you say you can, she will prove you that. If you say you can't, she will also prove you that. So become aware of the story that you're telling yourself. So thank you so much, Catherine. Honestly, I love this podcast. I love that we are sharing all this experience. I feel like it's very natural for people to feel related with. Again, we invite everybody else out there to write down in comments what kind of topics you feel related with. If you have any question in your daily life that probably you can feel that we can help you to go through, because remember, this is a living room conversation between two friends that are trying to connect with you. For all those people that sometimes they don't have people to talk about this, which is something that happens, because when we become this awakening process, sometimes we feel alone. But I always tell my clients, like, solitude, it's not loneliness, right? Solitude means that you're going to take a moment to reconnect with yourself before you are going out there to connect again. Because you need to understand from which identity you're going to connect out there with everything, with experiences, with people, with everything. So, um, just to close this podcast, I would love to make a question that goes like this: What do you want people to experience when they are listening to this podcast? What do you hope?
I really hope that this serves as a space to reconnect more deeply with yourself.
Love
Whoever's
that.
listening to this, yeah, whoever's listening to this, I hope that you can see yourself in my journey, in our journey. You can see yourself more clearly. You can trust yourself more deeply. And you can know that you are worthy and enough and amazing exactly as you are without needing to layer on more things on top of it that may not be sustainable. And so we would really love to have this space be a place where people feel seen and hopeful and inspired to reconnect with themselves and the joy of life.
I love it. I love to hear that, because I always says my programs are allocated to people who wants to go beyond material success, right? Most of the time people get lost, get lost looking for success in the outside world and forgetting about what does truly success means for them. And again, as we've been talking along the podcast, success is something very personal. And when you truly want to understand what does mean for you, the best thing you can do is to connect with yourself. So that's exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to create a space where you can probably see yourself reflected. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel that you are the only one that is going through all these, like overwhelming moments or moments of confusion, a moment of perfectionism. I mean, we are all eternal learners. We're going to keep learning. We want to share our experiences because I feel like there is no mistake in lives that are lesson learned. And that's what we are trying to show you, like, don't say that you made a mistake. Don't say, oh my God, what will happen if I would do this in another different way? You've been doing the very best you were able to do with the level of consciousness that you have. So be compassionate with yourself. Talk to yourself in the same way that you would talk to a best friend. And again, if you have any question, if you have anything that you would love to talk about, just write down in the comments. And me and Catherine, we're going to be so happy to create a space for you to gain clarity and enjoy this process of life a little bit more every single day, because we came here to enjoy the process of understanding and remembering that our lives are our offering. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and we see you soon. Love you.